Welcome to the greatest podcast ever, featuring Dre Zera, performance artist, Jackie Hyde, professional wrestler, and singer-songwriter Dan Pettit. Welcome to Dre Zera Uncensored. Subscribe, like, and share only on Dre Zera Uncensored. Welcome again to another episode of Dre Zera Uncensored. We are in a brand new episode and we have just got an amazing special for you. Back from her busy schedule, radioing all around the world. Oh my god, amazing performer extraordinaire, the one and only Kezabel Ambler. Hello.
Hello! Wonderful introduction.
I was thinking about doing that rolling tongue, blah, but I didn't think I'd do it justice, so I thought you'd instinctively do it anyway. Exactly. I mean, that's a very... I've known you for 2 years, and I have no idea how to do that still. like.
I'm sure your girlfriend will teach you.
Oh well, we've suddenly got a bit personal here after 1 minute of the podcast, but this is not the girlfriend appreciation podcast. This is the Kezabel Ambler special interview. So let's just get straight to it. So yeah, the reason why we are here today, we're here to just talk about the amazing life of Kezabel Ambler, and also talking about your spoken word world, how Kezabel Ambler came to prominence, and yeah, let's go straight from the beginning, shall we? So if my memory serves me correctly, you were born in Libya, is that correct?
So yes, born in Tripoli, Libya, then we moved to Northamptonshire when I was about 3 years old, so a completely different world. But my poetry life started when I wrote my first poem when I was 12 and a half.
Wow.
And the teacher put A+. Like, yes, A+.
So,
but then...
Sorry to interrupt. So, with this poem...
She crossed out the A+, and put underneath, is this all your own work?
Oh.
Didn't believe I'd written it.
Wow, it was that good. I was just thinking to myself, so this was part of a homework. This was your first entry to poetry, was your homework, essentially, yeah?
It was, I remember writing it, because as I was writing it, I could hear the rest of the family watching Monty Python on the telly. I'm showing my age now. And I remember thinking, I don't want to be doing this homework, I want to be watching Monty Python on the telly. And I scribbled this poem, and it was about jesters and colour and tents, and it was a very colourful, vivid, vibrant poem. I wish I'd kept it. So she didn't believe I'd written it, and I didn't write another poem for 30 years.
Wow,
so
that is...
So I say to people, be careful how you use your words, because they're powerful.
So
she could have lifted and encouraged me, couldn't she?
So what you're saying is, so this unnamed teacher literally took away 2 to 3 decades of your spoken word life.
Yeah.
Wow. So for the teacher listening right now, well, joke's on you! Ha!
I don't think she's alive anymore, to be honest. Miss Chater, her name was.
All right. Well, Miss
I'm
Chater.
naming and shaming.
Miss Chater, if you're here. All right. Moving on before we get a lawsuit from the Chater family. So yeah, this is a massive 3-decade break. So obviously, that is quite a long time, considering I've only tasted 30 the other month myself. So.
Yeah.
So.
It was the first poem I wrote. I hid as an adult in my mid-40s, and I was going through a difficult time with family and relationships, and I was trying to work stuff out, and I scribbled this poem and I hid it, and it is in my latest book, Permission to Speak, and it's called Complicated Love, the Hidden Poem, and that was the beginning of expressing and writing and getting it out onto the page.
Wow. So it's kind of like, so there was this book I read when I was much younger called Getting the Jitters to Write, and so was it a kind of where when you started doing poetry, it wasn't like boom, I'm doing poetry. It was kind of like an easing into it. It was kind of like slowly, like embracing it, as if you're like opening up a lotus flower or something like that.
It wasn't even a conscious decision of I am writing poetry. It was just getting it out, trying to work stuff out, like what is going on, and I don't know what to do, and where am I going from here? And it was starting to notice things and writing them down.
Hmm.
So it wasn't even a conscious I'm stepping into a poetry world. It was a just connecting with myself on the page.
I
And
see.
that's I'm passionate about encouraging others to do that, which is why I do my creative writing workshops,
Hmm.
because I want other people to. It's helped me through a breakdown, through divorce, through many situations. That pen has become a tool for life, and that's why I'm passionate
Hmm.
about helping others to express
I
and get it
mean,
out.
it seems like the pen and the writing has almost become a kind of a very therapeutic process in a way, because it kind of cause to me, because I write myself, so for me it's kind of like letting your emotions out in a very creative and functional way that can't really damage you. Instead, it really lifts you in a way. It's kind of like a big boulder off your shoulders, a bit like Atlas.
Yeah, and actually, it's not even just looking inside and
Hmm.
expressing how you feel. It's also observing things and noticing things. So I mean, some of my poems are really funny and really silly, and it's just noticing that someone, like the butcher, is looking down your cleavage rather than looking at you when you're buying the meat, and making jokes about it and laughing about it. So it's observational as well as those thoughts and feelings.
Mm.
Um, so so you can have such fun with words as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's where the amazing phrase wordplay gets into the game. The different, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me then, because we've had these 3 decades in between your terrible teacher to 3 decades later you're into performing poetry. So what year was your first gig then?
So I was scribbling away just over 11 years ago,
Mhm.
just scribbling for myself and expressing, and but I did share a few of those poems with a friend of mine,
Oh yeah.
and so she would laugh, she would cry, she would say, "Oh, that's amazing," or I would just share these poems. Then she asked me if I would like to perform some of those poems in between. It was a show she was doing in between burlesque and belly dancing. So there was this show at the old Vaudeville Playhouse Theatre in Northampton, and she asked me to do 3 or 4 little sets so they could change. And I just said yes. And I'd never done anything like that. I just said yes. And I stood on that stage with my right leg shaking, um, reading and performing my piece to 100 people, and I'd never done it before in my life. But I got a really good response, and they loved it. And they said, "Have you got a book?" I said, "No."
Mm.
And then that year, I did sort of performances, just in open mics and getting that feel of slowing down and up and down and sharing and what works, what doesn't work, and intonation and all sorts. Just experimenting really. And a year later, she said, "Would you come back and perform again? 2 nights this time, and we'll pay you." And
Whoa.
I said, "Yeah, yeah." I got a
Money?
bit more.
Yes.
I'd got a bit more confident. But then she said, "And I would love you to share some of your saucy poems." And I went bright red and went, "Oh no, I couldn't. They're just for me. They're not for anyone." And she said, "Kez, it's over 18s. It's burlesque and belly dancing. If you can't share those poems there, where can you? I dare you." And so I did.
That is a very, very good point. I mean, and now we have poems. One poem that sticks to mind in my head is Retro Afro Muff. As one of the titles. That's definitely a title that I'll never forget, because for all those that don't know, Kezabel Ambler's Permission to Speak CD. I listened to it all, and I reviewed it on my main channel. Link is in the description. But yeah, and enough of the plugs. But yeah, it's amazing. So from the burlesque world, would you say that? Because I've seen you perform a few times since. Would you say that you've incorporated some of the some nuances that can be translated to spoken word in terms of like body posture, hand gestures, and that kind of stuff, and dare I say it, some of your exceptional fashion as well. Would you say that has translated into the Jezebel Ambler that people know in the spoken word world today?
Well, really, I mean, I'm quite animated anyway, so I do use my hands to
Mhm.
express and to speak. So that came and comes naturally. And I do like colourful clothes, and I do like dressing up.
Mhm.
And actually, it was when I wrote my poem Three Wishes. I was swimming up and down a pool, and I was forming these ideas. And I got out of the pool, and I said to a lady, "Have you got some paper and a pen?" She was watching her kids, and I scribbled
Mhm.
down the outline of the poem, got back in the water, finished my mile, and that poem, when I performed it, I wore a tutu and wings. And that was the beginning of people saying, "Oh, here comes the fairy poet," or "Where are your wings?" And so whenever I do my show, I always have a set of wings, and there's usually a tutu about. So even although I did a more serious performance piece for poets, poetry for peace in a mosque in Leamington Spa, I didn't wear my wings for that.
Oh
So I
no,
have
yeah,
got,
I
yeah,
saw
yeah.
that
So
gig. You were a little less loud.
I was more respectful, yes.
Aye.
But when I do my full 1 hour show, there are serious poems, there are depth, there's sadness, there's comedy, there's a little bit of sauce, there's a little bit of everything, which is me. I'm a mix.
Mm.
So
Absolutely, absolutely. 100%. You are. It's like a spectrum of all poetry. I dare say. I think that's a good way of putting it. It's very fascinating. So with that said, obviously, with that said, you're establishing and you are quite an established spoken word artist. Definitely in the UK, and you've performed a few times in Holland as well. But want to address also like how did you get about say going into workshops and that kind of stuff? Because obviously, was it a case of you really wanting to try something else? Was it the motivation of, well, if I want to do this full time, how can I sustain myself in doing so? So, what are the thought processes here?
it wasn't as calculated as that actually. I was part of a group called The Stand in Corby, and
Hmm.
Kate Tempest performed, and we went to her workshop in the afternoon, and
Okay.
we performed our pieces just before her. So I can say I supported Kate Tempest, but or should I say Kate? She's now Kate Tempest, isn't she? And but I learned a lot. And Dean Atter, an incredible poet who
Yeah,
performed at the
I've
Cube
met
in
Dean Atter
Corby.
a few times actually. Yeah.
Me too. He's amazing. And he did a workshop. And Lydia Towsey from Leicester, she did a workshop
Yep.
at the Cube. And I was learning and learning, and it was helping me, and I loved it, and I wanted to share that. That is how it started. So it started with 6 people round my dining room table, and I said, right, we've got a 6 week course. That 6 week course, no one wanted to leave, and so we just continued the Weaving Words creative writing workshops, and here
Wow.
I still am 6 years later, still doing them. But I also do them now in the community, at festivals, in mental health wards, as well as my Weaving Words workshops that are not, they're on Zoom now because of the current situation. But
Yeah, this
yeah,
current situation that, as we're recording this, and when this comes out at the end of September or so, seems like it's still happening.
yeah, yeah.
Ah, man.
And you were just, but did you know what? As we were in that Zoom room, that first Zoom room, I saw those familiar faces
Mm,
of writers of all abilities and all ages,
yeah.
and I thought we can get through this together. And each week, with all the different groups in the mental health wards for Johnny's Happy Place, for Weaving Words, um, the people were saying, "This is helping me get through each week." And
Mm,
we would laugh, we would cry, we would write, it's just coming together and writing together. it's powerful.
Definitely sounds like it's definitely a very a powerful key, I dare say. Yeah, it is very interesting because like being a performance artist in 2020 is or any kind of performer or an artist of any kind, it's very tough times. I mean, how affected were you? Because obviously this year, you usually do your workshops in person. You mentioned doing it in Zoom. I mean, have you had to adapt heavily? Was it a mental toil? Lay down the pizza.
Um, I, there's no point getting in a stress about something that you can't change or can't
That
do anything about.
that is a
It
very
was a
good point. Yeah.
really good time of reflection,
Mm.
really good time of reflection, and I wrote a lot. And I ran a Stephen Lawrence project with
Mm.
Lemon Pop Studios, so we were doing workshops with youth online. So there was other projects and things I was part of and doing that were wonderful. Recently, I performed in the Market Square of Kettering, so just to bring some colour into the marketplace, because the town is a little bit soulless and grey, and people are a little bit unsure about going into town. So they booked me to perform in the square in the town centre.
Mm.
So I have had some live performances. I've been booked to perform a thing called Cheese and Wine Rhymes, Temperance and Scripts Poetry, and that's on the 3rd in Leamington Spa, and socially distanced, but as cosy as you can get.
Is there going to be cheese and wine there?
Yes,
Well,
it's
now
£10 a ticket, and there's cheese and wine, and we're entertaining with poetry. It's Mike Took of Script
Yeah, I
Stuff.
know Mike. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Mike Took. Yeah, I know Mike Took. Yeah,
it's great, isn't it? So I am doing some live performances, but it, like you say, it's restricted. It's
I'm
restricted.
I am getting a little worried though because as we're recording this is actually a couple of days before the rule of six comes along, and
True.
I'm just fingers crossed those performances are still doing their thing.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
only worry I have because so for all those that don't know, we are recording this 2 days before Dre Zera actually performs for the first time in person in this decade in Southend in the park. However, I feel this might be my last performance of the year due to let's just say the people above us in suits and ties let's just say they're acting a little bit mad like Kezabel's former teacher, let's just say uh,
I
uh,
mean, I did Stafford Live, where I performed live, and the best internet connection is in my bedroom. So my boudoir was suddenly on Stafford Live.
mm,
That was really wonderful and reaching other people. And I also performed for Punk for Homeless, and they do some wonderful work, and that raised money for
yeah.
some orphans in Africa. And so I have done. I've been
mm,
very choosy about what I've done actually, because
mm,
I was inundated with all these hundreds of opportunities to do
mm.
performances on Zoom and lives, and it's like, hang on a minute, hang on, hold on. So I have sort of taken a step back with that,
Yeah.
because it can get too much. It can
Oh
get too
yeah,
much. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, back in 2017, I used to perform on average like 3 times a week.
Yeah, me too.
Now I'm like,
Yeah.
even though I've done a an average of a similar amount, let's say, on Zoom and on like video streaming platforms for virtual gigs, in an in-person gig. Wow, when you did that first in-person gig for the first time at the Square, it must have felt it must have felt different.
It was strange, and to see more than a handful of people, even though they were passing by, and it was strange. It was strange.
Yep.
Um, but I have done other projects where, film projects and things on my YouTube. There's a poem called Freeze Framed Worlds,
Mhm.
and Benji Dotan sent me some photos to inspire a poem, which I wrote. Then I recorded the vocal, and then we went actually into the washlands in Northampton, socially distanced, and filmed there. and then he put that together, and that came out on my birthday at the end of July.
Wow.
So that was beautiful to be part of this gentle film reflecting nature and lakes and birds, and it was just beautiful. And recently I've been part of Siren Poets, and that was delivering one line to do with again nature and how nature gets you through. Because I'm very tactile. I missed hugs. I missed being held, and my one line on this film is I so missed being held. Nature lovingly wrapped herself tightly around me. And that was the line in amongst other 15 other poets' lines that have been brought together by Live Talk, and it's beautiful. The film is just beautiful, and it's called I Spoke to the Earth.
I think
Very moving.
I think I've actually I believe I've actually watched that. Yeah, Liv Talk is an incredible human being. Definitely bringing people together and all that kind of. Yeah. I have been following her work on and off. It's great, and it just shows. It just actually shows the resolve of us performers, because obviously, usually what I'm used to is going to gigs, meeting with these said people I tend to speak on social or know of them in our universe, but we then have to reconcile in our virtual universes, and in the most case we get to see people's living rooms and bedrooms and all this. It's absolutely mad. Absolutely, it is amazing. It is amazing how far things have gone, and hopefully 2021 will be a lot better than 2020. I mean, you know what they say, it can't get any worse.
It's funny though, because I've done a lot more radio interviews and podcast interviews as well, and my last two books, When You Say Yes and Permission to Speak, are also on audio and on CD, and so I recorded with Old Hotel Records. And having those audios has been powerful for radio stations to play them. So there's been a lot of that as well. So it's just different. It's just different. But all very exciting. All very exciting.
I mean, it seems to be that you are by far probably the most positive person I've spoken in all these, because obviously, so when Drazira Uncensored returned back on episode, when it returned back on episode 27, there weren't that vibe of positivity, and there's always been a little sense of it's either apprehension or just apathy of the whole situation, and I mean, you are correct. I mean, we can't be sad over something we can't control. We just have to make the best of it. But I guess even at the best of times, it can be very difficult. So you're saying to me that even though you have it has been difficult in cases, you've just had to adapt to the change, and the age-old phrase, just getting on with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and diversifying. I mean, I'm not particularly technically savvy, as you know, but I woke up that morning, it was a week before lockdown, and I thought, I cannot have my word weavers sitting around a table and risking, because I knew, some of them were in their 70s, some of them were in their 30s, but some of them had health issues. I thought, I cannot do that. And I got my credit card and bought Business Zoom and made a decision and got in touch with everyone and got in touch with the mental health wards, and I didn't want to take or possibly take something into a mental health ward where someone can't leave and give them a virus. No. And so I just bit the bullet and went with it in the Zoom rooms and on Teams. And you, like I say, the Stephen Lawrence Project, we thought we were going to be round a table writing with young people and doing a performance, but instead we were on Zoom writing and encouraging, and it ended up being in separate films. There's been some amazing film work too. So, but also an eye opener on World Poetry Day in March. I wrote a short poem called Clarity. And it was a real eye opener about who was there for you, who wasn't, Would you like me to share it? It's about 30 seconds long.
This is the Dre Zero Uncensored podcast. Kezabel Ambler!
Uncensored!
Kezabel Ambler with clarity. Here we go.
Here we go. Clarity. Learning. Mindfully moving on. Step forward on my path of clarity. Firmly pull the door behind me. Clear out to enable love and life in. Make room for affirming people to climb into my heart, mind, and tongue.
Woo! Alright, that was Kezabel Ambler with a clarity, and for 1 second I felt like I was on BBC Radio for a sec. But in all seriousness, yeah, that was excellent work. So, interestingly, then, so one thing I want to talk about, because obviously you are literally more busier than the Queen right now.
Yes, I'm prolific here wherever you turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna say, like, evolving as an artist. So, for example, obviously, obviously, your opinion of Dre Zero is, wow, he's doing some mad things. A lot of the time, I don't understand Dre Zero, but I will say, in terms of the appearance, or like kind of like your style of poetry, has it evolved over the years? Do you think you're gonna take it to different directions? Because I feel with Dre Zero, when you first met me to where you meet me now, I mean, there's slight differences. I mean, I wear some sort of weird mask. I have a different kind of attire. I might not perform as many happy poems as I used to. I suddenly transformed to 1990s Madonna. Yeah. So, what would you say, like, like your direction moving forward? You know what I mean? Because I think every artist has their own journey, and I mean, so what do you think your journey entails?
So I've been also, before lockdown, I was running retreats each season, and so there would be a group of us in the woods, eating whole food, doing art, writing, yoga, and I loved that connection. I absolutely loved that. And so I'm looking at buying some land and water so that I can do more retreats and encourage more people to be creative. So that is one of my passions. I've got a meeting later tonight.
It's all happened. I tell you guys, I wasn't lying. That wasn't a joke about her being the Queen. She's got like meetings upon meetings. She's not. At this rate, people wonder, how does Kezabel Ambler have a social life?
Well, the thing is, I love doing what I do, so it is social anyway.
Exactly. There was some
next year at August Bank Holiday. There's a Kaya Fest in Overston in Northamptonshire. And I've got a meeting today about where we're heading with that. So I'm really excited to be part of that, and to run the spoken word tent, Kaya Speaks, and to encourage young people to write. So I'm going into schools and doing some writing workshops, and that sort of thing.
Well, I know
next year, my new book is called Permission to Love Yourself.
Whoa, we got an exclusive! We have got an exclusive in Dre Zero Uncensored. Permission to Love Yourself. If another radio station got this before me, then it's okay. I'll still take all the credit.
Brand new, hot
off the press. This is breaking news. More breaking than a football transfer window. But yeah, there's something that is like linked to what you said. So I was just finishing watching the Tottenham Hotspur football documentary, which there is a link to this, where basically the last season, Amazon had unlimited access to the whole of Tottenham's like training ground, football stadium, everything. It's kind of like, think of it like the Big Brother, but it's like everything kind of thing. Jose Mourinho, the manager, said it's like, in football, he doesn't think of it like his job. He thinks of it as his passion, his way of life. Do you feel that's the kind of thing with what you're doing? Because I kind of feel like with my lifestyle, I don't think of what I'm doing as a job. I think of it as my art, the thing I want to do. Is that something that's true to you?
Definitely. So I've been opening art exhibitions. with poetry. I've been going into schools, getting people to be inspired and to write. And my passion is for others to be creative. You know, so we literally, although my workshops are called Weaving Words, we literally have written words onto ticker tape and ribbon and woven them into a piece of art.
Wow.
So I've got some pieces soon that are going to be exhibited in the Red exhibition for the Rooftop Art Gallery in Corby.
More exclusive! It's all happening! Go on.
And do you know what? I use this amazing designer and editor called Drazira, who helped me put together the vocal, the visual, and hone it ready for the art exhibition.
Just a reminder, guys. I did not tell her to say that. But yes, it is true. It is true. It is true. I have worked with Kezabel before. And a random note: if somebody looks at the Drazira archives on Facebook or social media, you'll see Kezabel help me to get my hair silver for 1 or 2 days. That was great. That was.
Oh yeah, that fancy dress party.
And
I was Wonder Woman.
Yeah, the fancy dress and that poetry event the day before or after.
Yes.
Yeah. That was,
Oh, that's right.
oh, I remember that. That was the last time we hung out. Oh my days. I remembered you saying, Dre, do you think this is too much? I'm dragging you everywhere. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Oh,
Never too much.
Oh man. I'll tell you guys. If you guys have got half the energy that Kezabel has, where she adds, I'll tell you, you guys are doing great. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that the vitality that you've had throughout the years is very incredible. Like at this rate, you're gonna have more longevity than any artist such as, I don't know, Madonna.
My granddad lived till he was 100, and most of my family live into their 90s. So you might have to put up with me. You'll be wheeling me onto the stage in a tutu, smelling of cabbage and wee, and doing poetry.
Just saying. Just to remind you, because my care industry days have long gone. But jokes aside, I mean, yeah, I'm always happy to help a friend. But anyway, looking at the timer, you've got to shoot off and wheel yourself to your next gig. So quickly tell us your social media, of which will be all in the description below, only on Drazira Uncensored.
So you can reach on all the social media platforms, either Kezabel Poetry or Kezabel Outlaw, and on our website, kezabel.co.uk. So if you want any books, and around the workshop, get in touch with
Awesome guys. Well, thank you very much for listening to Drazira Uncensored podcast. As of recording, I think I have figured out how to get this podcast not only on YouTube, but I figured out how to get it on Spotify. So most likely you'll be listening to this on Spotify and hopefully on various streaming networks. So this has been Drazira and this has been Kezabel. We shall Zira later. Goodbye.